This is my review of the Who album Endlesswire. It was released in 2006 and produced by Pete Townsend. There were two additional producers on Roger Daltrey's vocals, but I didn't bother writing that down because nobody cares. You can look it up. So anyway, this album was actually the first Who album I ever got. I went to the local Meijer with my mom. That store's not even there anymore. But they had a horrible CD selection. I think I only ever got 2 CDs from there, this and an Iron Butterfly Greatest Hits. But yeah, I was looking through their CDs. I really wanted a Who album because I'd heard a lot about them. My friend's dad was always going on about how they were the first band to start the instrument smashing, so I'm like, I got to hear that band. Well, they only had the greatest hits in this, and this album would have been probably only a few months old at the time because this would have had to have been late 2006 or early 2007. And so I ended up getting this one because I'm like, oh, it has a DVD with it. There's a lot of songs, and it's not a greatest hits. I had no idea it was new. I had no idea that it was the two-man Who, because John died, I think, in 2002, so this is down to just Roger and Pete, which that was a really disappointment to me when I found out, because one of the reasons I wanted to get it was I heard a lot about Keith Moon's drumming, and I wanted to hear Keith Moon. Well, he's not on here, so yeah, this album turned out to be a pretty big disappointment at the time, and pretty quickly after this I went and got Who's Next, and luckily it didn't put me off them forever. A lot of that was because the DVD, I watched that and I got really into the Bob O'Reilly and Behind Blue Eyes, and I think Won't Get Fooled Again, and Can't Explain It. Mike Post's theme from this album I didn't really listen to that much. But I mean, even the live DVD on this, it's not their best performances, I don't think. I think Roger sounds really rough around this era vocally. And it's just Roger and Pete, and as good as some of the other guys in their big extended bands that they have are, they're just not John and Keith, so it's just kind of not the same. But yeah, this album, pretty big disappointment the first time I listened to it. Still one of my least listened to Who albums, still my least favorite Who album, I think by quite a bit. But my opinion on it has improved. It's just one that I don't put on a whole lot. I kind of every time I put it on though, I'm like, yeah, this isn't nearly as bad as what I kind of think. So the album opens with Fragments, and to me this song really kind of sounds like they're trying to do Bob O'Reilly again through a lot of it. It has one of the same synthy opening things going on that almost sounds like the opening of that, just kind of different. And that kind of sums up a lot of what I'm going to say about this album. I feel like is that it's a lot of the songs sound like they're trying to go back to the older Who sound, and trying to sound like the band used to. But the drummers, it sounds like they were telling them play like Keith Moon and not kind of letting them do their own thing like they did with Kenny Jones. The bass isn't really that noticeable on this album to me. So it just it sounds like they're trying to do the old Who style, but they just don't quite have the instrumental power anymore. But at the same time, the songs are pretty good. I mean, this song to me not my favorite because it kind of reminds me of just trying to do Bob O'Reilly again. But some of the songs on here are pretty good, and I think would have really benefited if they had been recorded back then. But I mean, that's kind of dumb to say, but I mean, they just don't sound quite as good here. I don't think the production on this album is that great. Sorry Pete, but it sounds a little demo-y, I think, in places. And it just doesn't have the old Who power, but it's going for that old Who sound. So that's kind of my big problem with a lot of this. And also just I mean, most of the songs, I think, Pete's still a great songwriter. He's still got some really good ones here, but there's a lot of just kind of short, forgettable songs on here. And I don't know, back in the old days when he wrote his rock operas and stuff, and he did the short songs, they were always memorable. Here, I just don't find them quite as memorable, but he still gets some good ones on here. So it's kind of a random rant thrown in with the review of the first song. The second track, Man in a Purple Dress, kind of a more acoustic sounding song. This one's pretty catchy. It's got some cool guitar in it. Roger sounds pretty good here, so that one I think is pretty good, better than the first track. Third track, Mike Post's theme, has some cool guitar. I think I hear some mandolin and stuff in there, which sounds pretty cool. And I hear a lot of that kind of stuff on this album kind of mixed in with the other stuff, which I do think is cool. But it's just like, I don't know, the instruments on this album kind of mush together a little bit sound-wise, I feel like. Yeah, I think that it's one of those tracks that would have sounded, better if they had been done by like the younger Who, but it kind of sounds like it's trying to sound like the younger Who in places. Fourth track, In the Ether, Pete sings and he kind of decided that he wanted to sound like Tom Waits for some reason, so that's kind of like off-putting, especially the first couple times you listen to it. It's got some kind of jazzy like piano stuff going on. Really, I don't think it's that bad of a song. It's just Pete's vocals really weird, and I'm not sure why he went for that type of delivery. The fifth track, Black Widow's Eyes, one of the songs I kind of got into early on in this album, because this, like, I would not really listen to this album as a whole a lot for years, really, after I had it. But occasionally I would, like, put it on and listen to, like, 2 or 3 songs. And this is one of them. I like the guitar in it. I think it's got some cool drumming. Roger sounds pretty good. It's got the part that Pete sings sounds kind of weird, but I like that they're doing like the Pete-Roger vocal trade-offs. But another one of those songs that kind of just sounds like it's going for that old Who sound. But it's pretty good, pretty catchy song. The sixth track, 2,000 Years, is cool. It's kind of old-timey sounding. I like it. Seventh track, God Speaks of Marty Robbins. Cool acoustic guitar. Pete sings it. I think it's one of his better sounding vocals, and it's pretty catchy. I like it. The eighth track, It's Not Enough, was written with Rachel Fuller. I think I forgot to mention that one of the early, I might as well look to see what it was. Fragments. So the first track had a co-writer, and this one had a co-writer, and I think like one more has a co-writer, but everything else was written by Pete. Yeah, It's Not Enough, written with Rachel Fuller. Has some cool guitar. I thought the chorus was kind of weird, just kind of like stuck out, and not like in a great way. But like not horrible, just not my favorite track. And then the ninth track is You Stand By Me in short, acoustic, sung by Pete. That one I like a lot. And that kind of concludes like the first half of this album, which overall I think I like better than the second part, which is the Wire and Glass mini opera. Most of the tracks in this mini opera are pretty short, but like I think my other big problem with this album really is just like the length of it and the amount of songs, and just like kind of by the end of this mini opera I'm starting to check out a little bit. The first track of it, Sound Round, is kind of the short, frantic song, and another one where they're kind of going for that old Who sound. It's like so short that it doesn't make a whole lot of an impression. The 11th track, Pick Up the Pieces, pretty much the same except for not like as frantic. It's just pretty short, going for the old Who sound. And like I said, like Pete's songwriting on this to me is just a little hit and miss. Like I still think he has some great songs in him, writes some really good stuff here that would have sounded, great back in the day. But at the same time, like on Tommy, when he wrote those little short songs and stuff, they really stuck out. And here these like short songs just don't jump out quite as much. The 12th track, Unholy Trinity. This one I like a lot, kind of old-timey acoustic sounding. I thought it was really catchy. I don't remember ever noticing it that much before, so now it's one that I'm going to pay more attention to, but it really jumped out at me this time. I hadn't noticed it so much before. 13th track, Trilby's Piano, I think is how you say that, sung by Pete. This one wasn't bad, kind of slower, not a lot to say about it, but wasn't too bad. 14th track, Endlesswire. This one's easily my favorite song on the album. Sung by Pete. I've always just thought it was a really catchy song, one of the ones I've always listened to, but I do kind of prefer the longer version at the end. 15th track, Fragments of Fragments, is I think the other one he had a co-write on, but I forgot to write it down. And it pretty much sounds like Fragments again. Not a lot to say about it, but it's kind of like redundant to me because it's basically just like I don't know if it's a worse version because it really sounds like so much like the other version. The 16th track, we got a hit. I like it. It's catchy. It kind of gets stuck in my head. There's a longer version of this, which I'm not really sure which one I prefer. I think the longer version might go on a little bit too long. But this short version is pretty good. The 17th track, They Made My Dream Come True, is another really short song sung by Pete, and it's fine, just doesn't make a whole lot of an impression. Then you have one of the longer tracks, The Mirror Door, which I think is the longest track in this mini opera part. And it's okay. Parts of it I kind of like. There's other parts of it where it seems like the lyrics are just kind of listing people, and I'm not really a fan of that part of it. I think Roger gives a good performance in the parts where he's like kind of trying to like stretch his voice a little bit, and he still sounds pretty crusty, but like still I think pretty decent from him. But yeah, it's a kind of a weird song. I'm not crazy about the parts where they're just like listing off other musicians. Then the 19th and final track, Tea in Theater, kind of slow acoustic. Not crazy about some of it. I think like the drum sounds, they're like has these kind of like fake sounding drums in it that I wasn't crazy about. But other than that, like I thought the vocal had some nice parts in it. But yeah, not really the greatest closing track. Yeah, Endlesswire, not my favorite Who album. Pretty easily my least favorite Who album. But I still don't think it's bad. I think there's some good songs on here. I just don't think the production's that great. I think like vocally, both Pete and Roger are kind of at their weakest here. And I don't know. There's just a lot of like short, quick, forgettable songs in the rock opera section. I think the first half is a little bit better. But the song Endlesswire I think is really good, and that's pretty easily my favorite song on here. So I definitely wouldn't recommend starting here. I would say this album is only for like people who really like the Who. I do think like it could have been better probably with a little bit of more of a like better production. It just kind of sounds a little demo-y. So yeah, not a bad album, but not great.